of us happen to have found the proper human diet. We've found it against all odds. And we have the best chance of sticking with this if we can just get over the hardest part of it. We are set up for success because the carnivore diet is so good. Hello, friends. It's the Carnivore Rabbi here, as always, to meet, pray, and love. I just recorded a phenomenal video today with a carnivore in Poland named Tony. I'm going to release it in about a week. He was amazing. He reached out to me. He started his own YouTube channel, and he's doing really creative stuff, and his carnivore story is outstanding. So I can't wait to share that with you. And then later today, I'm sharing another interview I did with a carnivore named John Barry, who has created this wonderful website and resource for carnivores. So a lot of good stuff coming. Today, I want to focus on our limiting beliefs as carnivores. It's actually a follow-up to yesterday. Yesterday, the video was about the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, some of the key themes from that book. YouTube messed up the release of it. It didn't spread to as many people as it should, but those who saw it loved it. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's about the book by James Clear called Atomic Habits. One obstacle in achieving our goals, especially succeeding on the carnivore diet, is our limiting beliefs. What are limiting beliefs? Now, understanding them is critical to succeeding on carnivore, because I have found that it's not the nutritional information that prevents most people from success. It's the psychology. It's the ability to stick with it. It's not that we don't appreciate and know the benefit of the carnivore way of eating. It's just that we can't stick with it. It's what trips us up on other things in life. It's the same kind of issue. It's much deeper than surface information. It's what's inside of us. It's what's inside of us. See, all of us happen to have found the proper human diet. We've found it against all odds. And we have the best chance of sticking with this if we can just get over the hardest part of it. We are set up for success because the carnivore diet is so good, but we have to get through the messy middle, the difficult part, the messy beginning. I definitely have more friends that have started and stopped carnivore than started and succeeded. Now, I've coached a few people who did succeed, but just friends and acquaintances, people who I just mentioned the carnivore diet to, and they say, oh, that sounds great, I'm going to give it a try. Most of them don't stick with it. And I think it's because of limiting beliefs. So what are limiting beliefs? A limiting belief is simply something we believe about ourselves that discourages us from doing something. So we might have a belief. My wife, for example, she's convinced that she's really bad with directions. So she uses a GPS when she's driving around the block. I happen to not think she's very bad. She's gotten through some emergency situations when a GPS was not working or a phone was out of batteries. But her sense of self is that she's really bad with directions and maps, and she's not willing to go anywhere without a fully working GPS. Now, that's a relatively harmless limiting belief. But we can have deeper limiting beliefs. Author Donald Miller wrote a whole book where he worked through the limiting belief he had in himself that he was really bad at relationships. He grew up in a broken home, no father, and he didn't think he was capable of a long-term relationship. That was a limiting belief, and he got through it. Now, the question is how to get through it. And we'll get there. We'll get through to how we get through our limiting beliefs. So stay till the end. But the first essential question is to figure out what are our limiting beliefs, especially when it comes to the carnivore diet. And here are a few that I've seen frequently. 1, I can't give up my favorite foods, chocolate, ice cream, bread, fruit. I can't live without them. That's a big limiting belief. Here's a little more subtle limiting belief. Doctors know more about nutrition and health than I do, and nobody thinks this is a good idea. The limiting belief here is self-confidence. We may know that the carnivore diet makes us feel good and we've seen great results, but we still feel bad going against the establishment. We're hurting ourselves. Third limiting belief. Carnivore will be incredibly boring. I need variety in my diet. I can't just eat meat my whole life. 4, people will think I'm crazy, so I just can't do it. I won't be able to resist the pressure. Let me know other limiting beliefs you've had or you've heard of in the comments. That would be very helpful. The point is that they are self-imposed limitations, and they are extremely powerful, very hard to break. There was a wonderful book, this was a couple decades ago, called The Inner Game of Tennis. And Jeff Galloway, he says that athletes are more limited by their mental than by their physical stamina and skill. What he describes after giving countless lessons is student after student who seem to groove themselves into bad habits. And once grooved, the usual lessons do not help. In fact, to many, they may do harm. Those limiting beliefs stick with us. They're very hard to break, even with great teachers and coaches. But we can break them. So how do we do it? First, and most important, is a shift in perspective. We have to reverse our point of view. A good friend of mine's son was in the first grade at school, and his teacher asked the class, "What's the color of an apple?" Most of the children said red. A few said green, and Kevin, that's my friend's son, raised his hand and said white. The teacher tried to explain that apples could be red, green, or sometimes golden, but never white. And Kevin, an amazing kid, was very insistent, and he finally said, "Look inside. Apples are white inside." It's a different way of thinking. Schools don't value that way of thinking quite often, but we need to shift our thinking. Second, do something big and daring. Stretch yourself. Get out of the box. Get out of the box of limited thinking. A few weeks ago, I told the story about Jacob in the Bible lifting the rock over the well that no one thought a single man could lift. That was symbolic of this daring act of courage. Ask yourself, what's one thing you have done in your life that no one thought you could do? We all have them. Maybe you finished a project in a day that you thought would take a week. Myself, I've been posting almost every day on YouTube. I never thought I could do that a couple months ago, but I can do it. We are capable of so much more than we think. The more you stretch yourself, the more you become comfortable being uncomfortable. Comfortable being uncomfortable. Third, very important, find someone who believes in you. A few years ago, I read that great book called On Writing by Stephen King. And it's chock full of wonderful writing tips and inspiration. But one story stood out to me. King is talking about his first novel. He had the idea to write about a high school girl with strange psychic powers. He finished a draft and was frustrated. He threw away his manuscript. Now, this was before word processors, before Microsoft Word, so it was actually a typed manuscript from a typewriter. He threw it out and got up from his desk and went for a walk. He was depressed, ready to give up on his desire to become a writer. While he was out, his wife, they had just been recently married, saw the manuscript in the trash. She picked it up and started reading. By the time he got back from his walk, she had read a chunk of the manuscript and said, "You cannot give up." Yes, it needed some edits and rewrites, but it had the makings of a great novel. When King said, "No, I can't write about the experience of a high school teenager," his wife said, "I'll help you, but you cannot give up." So he did not. And that book became Carrie, the enormous success that eventually became a hit film and a musical. And of course, we know what happened with the career of Stephen King. He became one of the most successful writers of all time. A belief in him from another person made that confidence and transformation possible. We need that. When we're trying to get through our limiting beliefs, we need others who believe in us, especially if we're changing our way of eating, and that can be hard, and it can be really frustrating to people we love. They can be critical, but find some people who believe in you. Find people who know that you can get through this. If it's not in person, find them online. Find a coach. Overcoming those limiting beliefs is what's essential to succeed and sustain our success on this way of eating. And it's all worth it.